Welcome to the 8th Annual Quit Sugar Summit, where the world's leading professors, scientists, MDs, PhDs, coaches, addiction specialists, chefs, and health influencers bring you all the information you need to change your relationship with sugar. Now here's your speaker.
Hi, Jessie and Inchauspe.
Hi, Molly.
I was just saying before we recorded, I am fangirling out because you and I are just Instagram friends.
We are, yeah.
I mean, I say we're Instagram friends, but I'm like your fan on Instagram who DMs you all the time. And if you're related to me, sends your posts everywhere. And so we should all know Jessie and Inchauspe and we should all like put pause on this and go follow her on Instagram at Glucose Goddess, which is just another sweet charm of yours, that name. I use goddess as a term of endearment. Like when somebody does something that I like, I'm like, goddess, yes.
Yes, absolutely. We should use it more.
1,000%. Let's start that trend. So anyway, hi, Jessie.
Hi, Molly.
So Jessie is the glucose goddess. And tell me, who are you? What are you about? You're also a biochemist. I just want to say that because I love to know people's professional credentials. So tell me and everybody watching how in the world you became glucose goddess. And then I'm going to just rack your brain for the hacks.
I love that question. How did I become glucose goddess? I never set out to become glucose goddess. I was never, that was never an intention of mine to create this big Instagram community and have this name. And I actually had my own health struggles. When I was a teenager, I broke my back. And then that started a whole process of trying to figure out how do I feel good right now today in my body and my mind. And so I studied biochemistry, I worked in genetics, and I discovered glucose. And because it helped me so much, I started sharing it online. And
wait, so you found glucose, like we all know, like you found sugar. What does that mean?
It means I discovered two things. One, I put on a glucose monitor for the first time. So there are the little devices that you put on your arm that allow you to see what's going on inside of your body. In terms of your blood sugar levels.
And what compelled you to do that? Like, what made you think I should put was there a weight thing?
Random.
Was there what did you know?
It was completely random, actually. I was working at the time at 23andMe, the genetics startup in Silicon Valley. I'm not sure if you're familiar. Yeah. Uh-huh. And we always had these sort of pilot programs internally testing out new technologies. And they said, we have this glucose monitor pilot if anybody wants to do it. And I was like, me? I don't know. It just called me.
You just had a knowing. You just sort of were like,
yeah, I was like, I need to do this. And so I put the glucose monitor on. And for the first time, I was able to speak with my body. I could see the inside of my organism. I could see what was happening. I could see how my biology responded to what I did. And so through this process, I discovered so many things about how food affected my physical and mental health, all these amazing studies that helped me and my friends. And so I put them online, Molly. And then people kept asking me to do more and put more. And the community grew. And the glucose goddess thing kind of just happened. It just happened because people wanted more information. And so it was such an honor and thrill for me to be able to share this information and help people feel better that it just snowballed. Wow. And then one day, my Instagram used to be called my name, Jessie Inchauspe, which, as you might have noticed, is not the easiest name to write or pronounce or share.
She's saying that because I was like, Jessie, how do I say your last name? And it's good. Inchauspe. I'm in for it now. But yeah, that's a tricky Instagram name.
It is.
And it ain't anything like glucose goddess. Like, where did you even come up with that name?
So I love alliterations. I find it so fun, I love first names and last names that start with the same sound. Mm-hmm. So I thought I want to do something that's called glucose, and then I need another word. So I thought glucose girl, glucose guru, glucose gal, and then I was like glucose goddess. Yes, and so I changed the name like a year in, just because I wanted people to be able to find it more easily. You see what I mean? It was never like I want to be glucose goddess or whatever. It just happened because people wanted it. Yeah.
I spend a lot of time saying to people, you need to follow glucose goddess, like I just did at the beginning of this interview. So can you where do we even begin? Because it's really true. What I really love about you, I love a lot of things, but everything you're saying is science, 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 study, 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 science. And that is one of my many love languages. Right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I guess, first of all, I want to understand, when you started with your glucose monitor and you started to have all of these understandings and you started to look at the science deeper, like, where were you in terms of health? And then, like, where did it take you?
Love it.
Let's sell the solution first, and then we'll get into the doing.
So when I put on a glucose monitor, it was 6 years after I broke my back. And at that point, I was still suffering a lot mentally. I had a lot of anxiety. I had bouts of depression. I had a lot of dissociation going on. Like, mentally, I was not okay. I could not really spend any time alone. Like, it was not great, but it was manageable. And then physically, I had really bad skin. I was always kind of fluctuating in weight. I didn't really understand what was happening. I had a lot of cravings. So I would eat sugar like every day.
Oh, you were not taking care of your physical health. You were just kind of eating what you wanted. And
I was kind of eating what I wanted. I was like, oh, I had too much sugar yesterday. Today I have to eat less. I mean, it was a bit of a tug of war always between
like a hodgepodge. It was a hodgepodge. Exactly. Sometimes I'm doing it okay. Sometimes there wasn't a whole lot of concentration on it.
Exactly. And then one important thing is that my energy levels were all over the place. So I had to drink coffee every morning. I was working in Silicon Valley. So, you get up at 7, you have to get on the train. By 11 a.m., I was starving and exhausted. But it's interesting because I didn't realize that all these things were things I could change.
Well, and by the way, all these things are connected, right? I mean, that's the beauty of, I haven't had sugar in 13 years. It's like, they're all connected.
They are. But I didn't know, Molly.
Oh, I know.
I was just like, this is just my state. And so I put on the glucose monitor. And the first thing that happened is that you see on the screen these spikes and dips. You see your blood sugar levels go up and down. And as a scientist, I was like, let me try to figure this out. So I would see some weird stuff. Like, for example, if I had, nachos on Monday, I would see a spike. But if I had them on Tuesday, there was no spike. I would see stuff like, if I had bread alone, it would give me a spike. And if I had bread and butter, it would be no spike. I would see like stressful meetings, spike, hanging out at home, no spike, cappuccino when I was tired, spike, cappuccino when I was rested, no spike. And I know. And I started connecting stuff.
I'm like, I want to start taking notes.
And I started connecting things, Molly. I was like, oh, this is interesting. When I feel tired, it's usually because my glucose levels are crashing. And if I feel like my energy is pretty steady, like on the weekends, my glucose levels are flat. So that was just where I started. And I said, okay, I need to figure out what the science says. So I spent months, creating 100 tabs in my internet browser or my computer, just looking at every
probably running so
study.
slowly, right?
Yeah. I was like, I got to figure this out. And so I discovered all this science that was really recent, actually. There are two main things that I discovered that blew my mind. One, a paper had come out just a year ago, back then, in 2018, that showed that 80% of people without diabetes experience glucose spikes every day.
Wow.
And this is crazy because before we used to think glucose monitors, that's only relevant for people who have type 1 or type 2 diabetes.
Right. You can get a prescription for it from your endocrinologist. Exactly. I mean, that's the only, before I have another friend who does this too, but I didn't even know you could get your own. I mean, I didn't even know that was a thing.
I got mine in France because they're over the counter there. I'm French. So I know. So good. And so that was one thing I discovered that blew my mind. And then the second thing I discovered is that you can actually heal a lot of your problems if you keep your glucose levels steady. So the studies show that cravings dissipate when your glucose levels are steady.
Can we just define what we mean by problems? Because I have a lot of problems.
So many things, let me rephrase. Many things are affected by glucose levels, and many things get better when our glucose doesn't spike. So for example, the short-term stuff that, the sexy stuff people care a lot about. Skin gets clearer, hormones are rebalanced, fewer cravings, it's easier to lose weight, you reduce inflammation, so you're less red, you sleep better, energy levels are steadier. And then long-term things, the connection between glucose levels and, well, of course, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's, heart disease, like dementia, they're all connected. So I saw these two buckets. If I keep my glucose levels steady, I think I can feel better now. And I think I can prevent long-term health issues. And there were also a few early studies showing that the more glucose spikes you have, the more likely you are to experience symptoms of depression and anxiety. So I was like, okay, And then
the story is so cool. It's very similar to mine, except for I didn't wear a glucose monitor, but like I gave up sugar and I was an addictions therapist. And I was like, I'm having detox. Like I'm addicted to this. Like I did it kind of just in a desperate moment. And then like, it was bad for a minute, but then all of a sudden I was like, oh, holy cow. Like my skin looks amazing. I'm sleeping again. I'm willing to take risks. I'm not emotionally volatile all the time. I mean, it's really profound. I see mine as more of an addiction. I don't think that's true. You see yours a little bit more scientifically, but potato. We're still on the same train together.
Completely.
Goddess train.
Yeah, goddess train, Molly. Absolutely. We need to get like some goddess t-shirts or something. I need to make some swag.
I'd wear it I'd be a cartoon character. I'd just wear it every single day. I would just wear a goddess t-shirt every single day.
Okay, mental note. I'll do that.
There we go.
And then I discovered that in order to keep your glucose level steady, of course, you can cut out all sugar and carbs, but actually, that's not the only way. You can still eat sugar and carbs and keep your glucose level steady if you eat your food in the right order, in the right combination, at the right time. So I think a lot of people, for them, like quitting sugar entirely is just sounds crazy and too difficult. And so the tricks that I synthesized from the studies allow you to keep the carbs in your diet, but reduce the spikes. So you slowly reduce inflammation, you slowly reduce the cravings roller coaster. And, at the end of the day, it's much easier to not eat sugar because you're not having this blood sugar roller coaster that keeps you addicted.
Ooh, I love that. Wait, can I ask a few questions? Given that I'm the author of Breaking Up with Sugar and a real defined sugar addict, I just have a few questions about this. Cause the sugar addict in me is like, so I can start eating sugar again. That's amazing. Right. It's, and I'm also therapeutically, like I'm a harm reductionist. Right. And, what we're reminded in harm reduction is that the ultimate goal of harm reduction is to do no harm. So I just want to give like a little public service announcement really quickly to those of us in my camp who are addicted to sugar. It's easier to keep your blood glucose levels steady when you're having less sugar. And there are some hacks if you want to be kind of actually love what you're saying. You're saying you can come down and then actually your cravings are going to be.
Exactly. It's about like, what's the first step? Because I think I'm not sure, what are the different paths to completely breaking up with sugar, but I imagine some people are just like, I'm going to go cold turkey.
Yep.
What I'm suggesting is that you can actually use the hacks that come from these scientific studies to slowly reduce and realize that you're mentally less and less addicted. So it's easier and easier to reduce the sugar.
It's a harm reduction
diet.
plan. I think what you're saying is beautiful and also so rooted in science. So, but like, so you just went to the books for a while? Is that what you did?
It's a Google Scholar, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, Google Scholar.
My writing partner is obsessed. We thanked it in the back of the book, Google Scholar,
Amazing.
Is it really?
Yeah. And it's incredible. And what I also found is that nobody was really talking about this stuff in the way that I thought it should be talked about online. It was still young science. And for me, I was like, look at all these studies, look at all these amazing scientists across the world who've shown us this amazing data. And so first I went to my friends and I was like, guys, look, you can eat your foods in the right order and have a smaller glucose spike. And look at this study. And my friends were like, I don't care about your studies, Jessie. Like, sure, whatever.
Good for you, Jessie. But what do you think that is? What I think is really interesting about this is that this is pretty groundbreaking science and like nobody cared about it.
I think it's because it's a marketing issue, right? So what I saw is that these studies exist, but they're not being communicated in the way that people want or understand them or get excited about them. So I thought I'm going to use the data from my own glucose monitor to illustrate the studies. So instead of being like, hey, Molly, look at the study that says, if you have vinegar before a meal, you curb the spike. Look, read the abstract. I was like, okay, I'm going to test it. I'm going to have chocolate alone and then vinegar and then chocolate. I'm going to show you that the curve is smaller with the vinegar before. And then visually you're like, oh, cool.
I love that.
People just want to see stuff visually. And I think that's where I bring a lot that I'm turning all the science into visually stimulating
account
stuff.
Is one big, beautiful visual. And I just want to say, I have a goddaughter who is hypoglycemic and when her blood sugar goes low, get your wetsuit on, that's a real emotional roller coaster. And so like the rule in the house is she needs to have protein with everything. She needs to have protein with everything. And it's like, and I send your studies over.
Good. I'm so glad. I'm so happy that a lot of people are
I just have a quick question about vinegar. And it's like the eating disorders therapist in me.
Yeah.
So I just want to talk it through because I'm just here to be a responsible farmer. So
yeah,
I don't know how to say it. I believe in your science, but it feels a little gimmicky to me, and it feels a little eating disordered to me. Like drink vinegar before my meal. I just wonder what you think about that. I don't know if there's an answer.
I think that the message that I get most resoundingly is that thanks to my hacks, people don't see carbs as evil anymore, and they don't have this like complex around eating starches. So I think overall in the balance, it's more healing to people's relationship to food. But yes, I can see very well how people would adopt the vinegar thing, for example, which is just one of the many hacks.
It's one of the many. And I want to get to the rest of them. I'm so with you. I just think this here's why. There's people who are watching right now who are like a little eating disordered, and we just want to attend to everybody who's watching with us right now. Right. So I'm wondering what you think about that. Yeah, I think you're right. What does the data say on the vinegar? And then what do you think about it from a disordered eating perspective?
So let me tell you the data, because it's quite interesting. So the studies show that if you add a tablespoon of vinegar in a tall glass of water before every meal for a few months, you just lose weight very easily. Not a lot, like a few pounds, because the vinegar goes to your mitochondria and tells them to burn more fat. So it's interesting. I think it's cool. What makes me feel good about it is that it's cheap. It's easy. It's not dangerous, so it's kind of like if you were saying it's important to drink 2 liters of water a day. Like if you add a bit of vinegar to your diet, to me, it doesn't feel like something that can be potentially harmful, but I'm very cautious to say only do it if it's easy, if you like it. Like you don't have to do it all the time.
My other question is, I think the motive is so important because eating disorders are so full of blind spots. So I guess I would also say the motive of the vinegar is to burn fat, or the motive of the vinegar is to help to regulate blood sugar. Like, can you help me there as my scientist friend?
It has 2 main effects on your body, the vinegar. First, it goes to your muscles and it tells your muscles to soak up glucose that might be coming into your bloodstream. So as you eat something that would create a big glucose spike, if there's vinegar in your organism, your muscles are going to soak up the glucose, so the glucose spike is smaller. And then second, it goes to your mitochondria and it tells them to burn more fat. So it's kind of like this magical miracle thing. And I think it's the only one of my hacks that is gimmicky in a way.
Yeah, it's actually very true. But I have to imagine if you're putting it up there that it's really good science. And that's why I want to talk about it. It's incredible science.
Oh my God. The clinical trials are unbelievable. And they've been shown in type 2, type 1s, people without diabetes. Like, this is, I'm as shocked as you are. I'm like,
no. And I believe the answer is never the opposite. The answer is the balance, right? So I think if you're listening and you're like, I cannot get this metabolic syndrome. I cannot shake it, and I cannot stop eating. And I wish I could break up with sugar, but I can't, starting with the vinegar at every meal might be a really good option for you. And if you're like a constant restrictor and you're always looking for the next gimmick, this particular hack may not be for you. Like I'm all about sovereignty over your own existence, like just turn your brains on, my friends, is all I'm saying.
And by the way, Molly, like, I don't say the vinegar is the first place you should start, but it's the one that people remember the most because it's so easy and it's so like, oh my God, the magic bullet. People are always looking for the magic bullet. Where I tell people to start actually is to stop having anything sweet for breakfast. Like make your breakfast savory.
That's your one.
Yes, because that has the biggest impact on your glucose levels for the rest of the day, the most impact on your hunger hormones.
Tell me more. Let's start. Yeah. So let's talk no more sweet. So you're saying not oatmeal? Like not sweetened oatmeal.
You can have oatmeal as long as you don't add sugar to it. And let me tell you the context for this. So the studies show that if you have 2 breakfasts of the exact same number of calories, okay, and one creates a big glucose spike and the other one doesn't create a glucose spike, the one that creates a big glucose spike will make you hungrier for the rest of the day. Before your lunch, before your dinner, will deregulate your hunger hormones and will start the cravings roller coaster. If you have a breakfast that keeps your glucose level steady, you'll feel amazing. You won't be so famished and have so many cravings during the rest of the day. So that's a really easy one because it has an impact on the next 24 hours. It's quite incredible. And for a lot of us who always had a sweet breakfast, like orange juice, jam on bread, cereal, we don't know what it's like to have a day without a sweet breakfast.
Does that include artificial sweetener?
So the studies, no. In the studies, really what affects our glucose levels is real sugar and real starches.
Okay.
So artificial sweeteners, that's a whole other conversation. I think they can be helpful for people who are trying to wean themselves off of the real stuff.
Interesting.
But ultimately, I don't think they're a solution in and of themselves. You know what I mean? What is your take on artificial sweeteners?
I mean, the data that I'm reading is that it spikes. It ends up making you more hungry because your body is craving there to be a caloric need, and your body's like, well, you didn't give me calories. I need calories because you just put the sweet. My other take on it is that it ruins your taste buds because it's 1,000 times that of sugar. So to enjoy an apple with natural peanut butter on it is impossible when you're looking for the wrong kind of sweet, that the man-made sweet.
Yes. So, I would also add that all the bad side effects of artificial sweeteners are still less than the side effects of real sugar. If you look at the impact on the body.
The same. I mean, the only problem is, like, I deal with, people with disordered eating. And I think when you've been on the diet roller coaster for so long, it's like they've actually, somehow the marketing has made you believe that it's good for you to have artificial sweetener. And we both agree that that's crazy. Okay, good. I like your eyeballs on that one.
It's not good for you. Like, if you don't have any artificial sweeteners in your diet, I would never say, Molly, you have to add
Get some Splenda in there.
No. And there's also different categories of the artificial sweeteners. We know aspartame and Splenda are not great, but if you look at monk fruit, stevia, allulose seem to have a lesser impact, but everything is relative.
And everything depends, because I'll tell you, monk fruit in my body, not so much. It's just, that's what I mean. You all have sovereignty over your own bodies. It's all I'm saying. Like, what we're saying is for information only. Take what you want and leave the rest. I think that's the piece,
Exactly. Absolutely. And nothing is good or bad. Everything is relative. So if you look at the sweetener world, yes, of course, it's better to just have whole fruit when you want something sweet. And then, it's a bit worse to have artificial sweeteners, and it's a bit worse to have real sugar. But hey, we all have to live in balance, and it's okay. I had cake yesterday with real sugar and I baked it and it was awesome. And I don't have this fixation around, sorry, I'm not as clean as you.
No, it's okay. Sugar. I can hear. I'm happy for you, Jess. I'm happy for you. That's not my truth. So my goddaughter once made me a cake, and it was like the size of a piece of paper. It was a gluten-free cake for my birthday. And she thought I was gluten-free, not sugar-free. And I thought to myself, that cake doesn't even look like enough. But that's my truth. Listen, that's what I mean. One size doesn't fit all. So let's talk. So when you're saying savory breakfast versus sweet breakfast, give us some
what does
tips.
It mean?
Yeah, okay. What does it mean?
So it means that in your breakfast, the only thing that should taste sweet is whole fruit.
Yeah.
So if as much as you can, try to be as much on this side as possible, which is nothing artificially sweetened, no jam, honey, maple syrup, like all that is just same as regular sugar. I know we've been told that like honey is better for us than good old cane sugar, but it's not true, unfortunately. They're all the same molecules.
That's great. No, dispel that myth. Smash it.
It's all the same, girl. And honey doesn't even have that many antioxidants. There's as many antioxidants in a teaspoon of honey as there is in half a blueberry. So eating honey for the antioxidants is completely...
The honey marketing's done great.
I know. Very well. Very well. And Lustig probably spoke about this, but honey and agave have so much fructose in them, which makes them even worse than regular sugar.
Well, you know what they say about fructose? It's alcohol without the buzz.
Exactly.
That's my favorite.
Exactly. It's so good. And so how do you make a savory breakfast? So starters are fine. You can have bread, you can have some oats if you want. I just have leftovers for breakfast, honestly. I have what I had for dinner before. So I have some rice and I had some mushrooms and some eggs. You can have avocado on toast. You can have a protein shake if it's not just made of fruits. You can have...
You don't see a glucose spike from a smoothie?
You only really see a glucose spike if it's not balanced. So if your smoothie contains fat, fiber, protein, you'll be fine. If your smoothie is pure fruit, then that's a big problem.
Okay.
Yeah. So all smoothies are not created equal.
All smoothies are that's a chapter, which by the way, I mean, I just want to spoiler alert. Jessie has a dope book coming out. Is it in April?
It's in April 5th.
I'm going to have my own personal
fan
club about that book, but mark your calendars, friends. Mark your calendars, because everything we're talking about is going to be in a book in April.
It is. And there's so much information that I was like, I need to put this in a book. Instagram is kind of the trailer.
Definitely need to put this in a book.
Yeah. If Instagram is the trailer, the book is the movie.
Yeah.
You know,
and I feel like there's people watching this right now that are probably like sighing relief that they don't have to like take all these notes right now and go into your Insta. Like, we're just good. Don't worry. It's all going to be in a book, my friends. It's all going to be
it's called Glucose Revolution. You can find it. You can pre-order on Amazon or anywhere else.
Oh, good. Pre-order it. Get on it, friends. Get on. Yeah. I'm here for that. I'm going to go pre-order it now, even though you'll send me one.
Molly.
I'm still going to pre-order it because that's what friends do. That's what
friends do. Thank you, Molly. So breakfast, have a savory breakfast. And you'll see that during the rest of the day, you won't have as many sugar cravings. It's quite remarkable. It's life-changing. But if we have the same sweet breakfast every morning, we don't know what it's like to spend a day without this big glucose spike in the morning, without the sugar roller coaster.
Yeah.
So that's one.
Also, I might say, I think as a biochemist, sugar and alcohol are they're very similar, right? Biochemically. And it would be to say that if you have this big, Jack Daniels in the morning, it would not be crazy to think that you would want more alcohol through the day, right? But if you're making this big, this big fruit smoothie, or just having this big plate of, pancakes with the syrup, whatever, like that, it would make sense that you even like these, these fake muffins that people are making these days with even, it just makes so much sense to me to not start your cravings first thing that you do in the morning.
Completely. What do you have for breakfast, Molly?
I have a lot of what you're talking about. I'm a big fan of Ezekiel bread. So I often have either an Ezekiel bread with eggs on it. I'll have Ezekiel with avocado, and which is my next question, what you've actually gotten me into, my friend, is starting my morning with greens.
Nice.
So tell me more.
Okay, fantastic.
Nobody loves to promote the greens like my friend Jess,
So absolutely. Let me tell you about the studies I found, which were incredible. So the studies show us that if you take 2 meals that consist of the exact same foods, okay, so same foods, same calories. Calories is not even a thing anymore, really. But I just want to
it's so antiquated, calorie
counting.
I
know, but I just want to mention it because it really proves the point. So if you take a meal that contains vegetables, proteins, and starches, and if you eat your meal in a specific order, the ingredients in your meal in a specific order, you cut the glucose spike of your meal by 40%. So you're eating the same thing, but you're reducing inflammation, you're reducing insulin release, you're avoiding the cravings roller coaster, you're helping your body heal. And so the order that helps us do this is vegetables first. Always start your meals with the vegetable part of the meal. And the reason for this is because the fiber in the vegetables, if it lands in your system first, it's going to go create this mesh in your intestine. And this mesh is really important and protective to your body.
Oh God, and that makes so much sense. It's like creating a little pillow for the rest of the
food. It's a pillow. Exactly. And so this little pillow will then be there, and any glucose that arrives afterwards will be absorbed less into your system and slower. So you see a smaller spike. So you're eating the same stuff, but you're helping your body heal of so many issues. And that's so cool, Molly, because you're eating the same thing. So this is what I recommend people start with. Savory breakfast. And then every time you eat a meal, start with the veggies. If there are no veggies in your meal, add some veggies and have those as a starter. Yeah.
So like there's some people who, this isn't actually, like, I think there are people who are like scared of carrots. Are you counting carrots? Oh yeah. Cause there's like sugar. Let me tell you something. Diet culture has really brainwashed us in an absolutely terrible way. So like all veggies,
tomatoes, carrots, beetroots, whatever's a vegetable, you're totally fine. I mean, they're incredibly healthy and good for us. There's nothing wrong with carrots.
Comes from the land. How bad can it be? Yep.
Exactly. And of course, the fruit and vegetables we eat today have been bred over millennia to be sweeter and to be easier to enjoy, but ultimately they still remain, the best foods for us. So yes, any sort of vegetables, you can make a little carrot salad. You can have tomatoes, olive oil with mozzarella. You can have just a beautiful green salad with a bunch of herbs, broccoli, cauliflower. I mean, I'm a big broccoli, cauliflower fan.
I'm not. I'm a big, I usually saute some greens with some eggs.
Yeah.
And then eat those a little bit. And then I'll get into my Ezekiel bread as you've sort of, and this thing I do love that you talk about, and then when I can't, I don't.
Exactly. Just do it if it's easy. Like if you're having a mixed meal, like, I don't know, a soup, a paella, whatever, something with all the mixed foods together, don't worry about it. Don't try to pick out the vegetables and do it first. It's just, no.
Yeah. Like if I have like a salad that has like quinoa in it, I'm not like, can't start with the quinoa. It's like,
no.
We want to like, the spirit of the law, not the letter of the law, because the last thing we would want to do is make, taking
people
care
stressed
of our
out about
glucose spikes into a job or a disorder, right?
Completely. And, just if you even do it once a month, you eat your vegetables first, that's better than not doing it at all. So don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Completely.
I want to go back. I know we talked about this again, but now that we're a little bit more informed, let's talk again about what a glucose spike is.
Of course.
And what it does to our body. Because why do we want to be taking care of glucose spikes?
Yes. So glucose spike is a very quick increase in the concentration of sugar in your blood. Technically, it's called glucose, but everybody calls it blood sugar. Right. And you see it if you're wearing a glucose monitor, you literally see that the concentration is going up. Just like if you were adding sugar to your coffee, like there's more and more sugar in your bloodstream. And this happens after we eat mostly sweet stuff. Actual table sugar or derivatives, maple syrup, honey, fruit juice, all of that jazz. And also it happens to a lesser extent when we eat starches. Mm-hmm. So rice and bread and pasta, but it's less pronounced than when we eat sugar. Mm-hmm. And so this spike in your blood, what happens? So our bodies need glucose. So they like that we have glucose in our bloodstream, but the big glucose spikes are actually not great for our body. Our body's like, okay, I need to deal with this. It's not the best situation. So what does it do? It sends out insulin, and insulin comes and takes the glucose away and stores it away in our fat cells, our muscle cells, liver cells. And why does the body do this? Why does the body take the glucose away? Why can't it just leave all this excess glucose in the blood? It's because when we have too much glucose in our blood, two things happen. Firstly, this thing called glycation happens. Glycation is the process of aging. It's the process of cooking from the inside. I know, it's crazy. When you put a chicken in the oven and it becomes brown, or when you put a piece of bread in the toaster and it becomes brown, what's happening is that it's glycating. And in our body, we're glycating all the time. And at the end of the day, the reason we die is because we're too glycated and our body just shuts down. And with each glucose spike, glycation happens faster. So our body's trying to protect us against that. Second thing that happens is that when there's a big influx of glucose into the bloodstream, the glucose actually doesn't stay in the blood. It goes everywhere. So when you see a big glucose spike in your glucose monitor, it's not just saying, Molly, there's a lot of glucose in your blood. There's actually a bunch of glucose in the cells in your little pinky. There's a bunch of glucose like in your cheeks, everywhere in your body, in all your organs, a bunch of glucose is arriving.
Wow.
And glucose, where it goes when it arrives in your cells, it goes to your mitochondria.
Wow.
Because
that's the powerhouse cell. I remember that from third grade. Powerhouse does all the work. Yep.
Exactly. And so why does it go to the mitochondria? It's because the mitochondria are in charge of turning glucose into energy. Okay. Unfortunately, when there's too much glucose, your mitochondria are like, whoa, can't deal with all this glucose. I can't make this into energy. I'm just going to shut down.
I relate to that in my own life sometimes. Yes.
And so your mitochondria shut down. They get stressed out. They create this stress reaction of free radicals in the body, and they can't produce energy as efficiently. So you're tired, even though you have all this glucose in your system, because your mitochondria are just like, this is too much for me. I cannot deal with all this stuff. I'm just going to stop doing my job.
Yeah, over it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So those are the processes. And the reason your body sends out insulin and then makes you gain weight by stashing glucose away into your fat cells is to protect you against those two things. But they still happen. Yeah. It's fascinating. And so, sorry, to conclude.
No.
These three processes.
Because I think, disordered eating is such a normative part of our culture. Everyone's like, lose weight. Like, this is a way better intentionality.
And also, Molly, the reason we gain weight is because our body is protecting us.
Yes.
Like we should thank our body for putting on weight because it's protecting us against too much glucose free flowing in the system.
How is it protecting us by putting on weight? I'm fascinated by that.
Because when there's too much glucose in the body's like, we need to avoid stressing out the mitochondria and making glycation happen. So it stores it away into your fat cells where it becomes neutralized. It can't make any more harm. So when you put on weight, it's actually your body protecting you from having too much glucose everywhere that's causing problems. And so those three systems.
Thank you, body.
I know.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. We were uninformed.
Exactly. And so these three processes, the glycation, the stressing the mitochondria, and the gaining weight to protect us, these form the basis for a lot of issues coming up in the body. So we're talking acne, we're talking sleepiness, we're talking, of course, weight gain, we're talking not sleeping well, we're talking long-term issues like type 2 diabetes or heart disease and so all of these are symptoms. When we have acne, when we feel cravings, when we gain weight and we don't know why, when we don't feel good, when we develop polycystic ovarian syndrome symptoms or type 2 diabetes, that's actually our body telling us, hey, Molly, like there's something going on the inside. We're trying to protect you, but it's still causing some consequences. Like, help me.
Yeah, it's like a siren.
It is.
That's so interesting. So we want to keep our blood glucose down because then our mitochondria can be like, good to go to work today.
Yes, exactly. And then you feel better. You have all this energy. We're conditioned to think that if we're tired, we should eat sugar because sugar gives us energy, which is not true, unfortunately. Sugar gives us pleasure. So our brain is a bit like awake for a little bit, but on the inside, it's not giving you any energy. Friends, it's hurting your energy capacity.
I always think when people say things like that, like you just ruined our lives for good. Ready for this one? Sugar gives us pleasure, not energy, and quick pleasure, right? That dopamine high, not the kind we want, not long-term pleasure. Cause then all is wanting. That's what it does to
and it comes from the brain. Yep. But on the inside, sugar is ruining the capacity of our mitochondria to actually make energy for our body. Man. I know.
This is so helpful though. So let's go through like your most favorite hacks. I mean, I'll save mine for later. That's what I want to say. Some of my favorite posts that you do, and perhaps it's only in stories, or because I love this, like when she's out to dinner. It's so great.
Yeah.
Jessie's at a French restaurant. Here's what she's doing.
Yeah, I can talk about that. I think it's cool to see these things in situations. So when I'm at a restaurant, I always order a vegetable-based starter. Like always. That way I create that little pillow.
Yeah, the loving pillow in the belly. I'm so here for it.
Pillow is so good. So I do that. And then I have a main which has like protein and starches and fats. No problem. And then, if I have sugar, it will be at dessert time. I'm not going to have a big glass of orange juice first or like sugar at the beginning of the meal because then it would arrive in my bloodstream so quickly and create a spike. So it's all about like balance and helping your body deal with any glucose that you might give it. We want to be in a partnership. And that's what's so beautiful. Instead of blaming, I put on weight, stupid body. No, it's like, speak to it, help it.
Like, why did you put on weight? Oh, because I'm plowing you with sugar and you can't actually work.
Exactly.
And so none of you is saying, by the way, like, let's just make it clear because I always go to my sickest self and my sickest self's like, so I can have, you're not saying that in the middle. And in fact, I think all of your social media supports this. Like if there's ever a time that you'll have a candy bar in the middle of the day or you'll have a muffin in the middle of the day, that is never a solo event, right?
Exactly. Always put clothes on your carbs. That's another hack I love.
Clothes. Stop it right now. What do you, I know, but for those listening, what do you mean by always put clothes on your carbs?
Okay. So first of all, what are carbs? So carbs are sugars or starches. Okay. So anything that tastes sweet or anything that's starchy, like potatoes and bread and rice and pasta, etc. So if you eat these things on an empty stomach, the glucose in them is going to hit your intestine and your bloodstream really quickly and create a spike. Mm-hmm. If you put clothes on your carbs instead, which means you eat them alongside protein, fat, or fiber, you can still eat the carbs that you're going to eat, but you will reduce the glucose spike. which means that you will reduce further cravings for sugar. Oh, I have to tell you about this study about cravings. Hold on, I'll finish this, and then we have to talk about cravings. So always add, if you're going to have carbs, always add protein, fat, or fiber, like your goddaughter, right?
Yeah.
So exactly. So this can be, for example, I don't know, if I'm having a cookie, I'm going to have some Greek yogurt with it. If I'm having an apple, I'm going to have a few almonds with it. If I'm having pasta, I'm going to have eggs and sauteed kale with it. Always add cloves to your carbs.
Always add cloves to your carbs.
Yeah.
I love it. Tell me about the study on cravings.
Okay. There's so much fascinating stuff. Oh my gosh.
I love two science nerds just loving life right now, huh?
I know. So the study was done at Yale in 2016. And what they did is they put participants in an fMRI scanner, you know, the big donut machines that scan your brain. And the participants were lying in the fMRI scanner and they were being shown on a screen photos of foods that were high calorie or like fast food, like burgers, cookies, but also foods like broccoli and salad and rice. And on top of that, the participants were hooked up to a machine that was measuring their glucose levels. And they were being asked to do a thing, which is to say how much they want to eat the food they're seeing. So how much they're craving the food they're seeing on the screen. And what the scientists found was fascinating. They found that when the participants had steady glucose levels, they didn't really rate any of the foods highly. They were just like 5 on everything. I could eat a burger, I don't care. I could eat a broccoli, I don't care. But if their glucose levels were dropping, even by a small amount, very small amount, 20 milligrams per deciliter, which is a very small drop, which is smaller than what you would see after a spike, they started rating the fast food and the sugar-filled food much, much, much higher. They were like, oh, I really want to eat this. I really want to eat this. And the scientists found that their brain was doing something peculiar. The craving center in their brain was being activated.
Wow.
Yes. So dropping glucose levels activate the cravings center in our brain, making us want to eat junk food more. Wow. The thing is, Molly, our glucose levels crash after every spike, right?
Yeah.
So if you're eating sugar, it's spiking you and then you're crashing. Your craving center is like, ooh, I want another cookie.
More.
And then you're on this roller coaster.
You're very vulnerable. I mean, that's the word, right?
Yes, completely. So, you know, the hacks, savory breakfast, putting clothes on your carbs, like all this stuff helps you flatten the glucose curve. So you're not a victim of this glucose crash anymore. And you're off the cravings roller coaster.
And P.S. I love the Michael Moss research from Big Food. I mean, you could just be walking down the street and it's a big craving. I mean, we're not talking just about food you put in your body. We're talking about memory about food. We're talking about marketing around food. We're talking about smell of food. So it's not just like that you're in your house. It's like we're just Big Food has created us to have cravings. So we're just worsening them when we're doing this blood sugar thing.
Exactly. There's so many things that make you want to crave and eat sugar. This glucose thing is just one of them, right? But it shows you what happens when the glucose is happening. So imagine you have an association with like, oh, I don't feel good, so I want to eat sugar. Or there's so many things, and then you're just stuck.
I hear you. I have one more question. I mean, I have 100 more questions, but I only have a certain amount of your time. You said this thing in the beginning that I caught on to, which is you said, I ate this when I was tired and I ate this when I wasn't tired. Talk me through, because I am obsessed with sleep. I think people undervalue it. And I think it is the thing we actually need to value right now. So talk me through that study.
Of course. I will just say I need 10 hours of sleep.
God bless. I think I need 8. I get about 6.
I need 10. Like if I want to feel good, I go to bed at 10:30 and I wake up at 8:30.
My God.
And there's so much stigma around this. It's like, you need 10. What? It's like, yeah.
I mean, that's a goddess move. That's a goddess move. You're like, need 10, get 10. Good night.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, just that aside, because I want to also normalize needing a lot of sleep. 10, I think is a lot, but hey, that's just my body. Anyway, so the tired thing. When our body is tired, when we haven't slept enough, a lot of things are not working exactly as at their optimal form. You know, our body suffers the consequences. And one of the ways that poor sleep affects us is that when we're tired, our body can't deal with glucose as well as it can when we're rested. So you know that mechanism of the body sending out insulin to bring the glucose away? that is a little bit faulty when we're tired.
Wow.
So you can eat the exact same thing.
I think that's like, you got to stop there. Like everybody has to hear that, because people are not prioritizing sleep. And then they're wondering, why do I have cravings? Why do I want all this sweet stuff? Why does it feel like and it's like, this is just straight science here, right?
Absolutely. I completely agree. So one of the mechanisms that we know by which poor sleep leads to more cravings and just not feeling amazing and wanting to eat more food and more junk food is because of this thing. When we're tired, our body can't dispose of glucose as well as it can when we're rested. So you see bigger spikes and bigger drops. So as a result, it's unfortunate, right? Because when you're tired, unfortunately, biologically, you're more likely to get more cravings because the glucose disposal system doesn't work as well. But there is hope. Because I know a lot of us don't get the sleep that we want to, kids, obligations, work, etc. So there's a few things you can do to actually help your body get back into the optimal form in the morning if you haven't slept very well. First of all,
that's literally breakfast. Me today. So I am listening intensely.
So be like Molly and have a savory breakfast.
Thank you.
That way you won't even increase the cravings roller coaster, and do a 10-minute moving your body thing. Go for a walk, do a quick workout. Like that really helps.
It's so funny. I literally did that before this interview.
Really?
Lately. I literally was like, you need to go move your body. You need to go smell the air outside. That's so interesting. And we know that from diabetes research too, though.
Yes.
That moving your body.
You're pretty in tune with what's happening, right? If you feel that, that's really
I have to be honest, for those listening, the way I'm in tune is because I broke up with sugar. And when I broke up with sugar, I started, and it took, 5 or 6 years, but when I took the toxic things out of my body, I was able to start to know my body a little bit more. There's no way to hear your body when most of your body is emotionally and physically in the ICU. Like, I'm in tune and I meditate. I mean, I'll just say, like, if you want to know why I'm like a morbidly obese suicidal person without this. In fairness.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. Congratulations. It's really, really cool.
So,
yeah.
Bestie.
So, yeah, girl. So, go outside, go for a walk. If you can't just go on YouTube and be like 10-minute, workout, and just move your body, because when we move our body, our muscles become more sensitive and are more able to uptake glucose afterwards. Great. So those two things, when you're
we're not saying go do a hardcore workout, because I didn't. I just went outside, just took a little stroll.
If you want to do a hardcore workout, that's fine. Do whatever you want.
You do you, boo. But we're not saying it has to be it has to be this moving breath. I was just like, I just needed to. It's true. I needed to regulate my system. I feel like I also think like animals give us like a lot of info. Because I think like my dog would need to go do that. Like he's so riled up. I'm like, let's go take a quick walk, babe. And then he's like, okay, we're good.
What's your dog's name? Sorry. Sidebar. Danny?
Yeah.
Cute.
He's like, he could be a goddess with us.
Oh, yay.
Danny Goddess. You're amazing. We can pre-order your book on Amazon.
Glucose Revolution. Yes, you can.
Get on it. The Glucose Revolution. I'm going to buy multiple copies. If you're wondering what you're getting for the holidays for me, stay tuned. And we must follow you on Instagram. It is like, do not pass go. Do not take too, like, this is going to be one of the smarter things you do just in general for the information about your body and your glucose levels. Mm-hmm. And you're also like a genius. And I'm so glad we're friends. And I want to say it does speak to stalking someone on Instagram. The only person I've ever stalked on Instagram. And look at us now.
It pays off. It pays off.
Anyway, friend, thank you so much for coming on Quit Sugar Summit. You are a goddess.
You are a goddess as well. Thank you, Molly, so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, friend.
Like really awesome.
I'm so excited.
We hope you are enjoying all the speakers. We know that 5 or 6 speakers a day can be overwhelming. To be able to listen to all the speakers over and over again and to grab thousands of dollars worth of speaker bonuses, including detox courses, menus, recipes, and a whole lot more, make sure you click on the speakers package link and guarantee your success.